Welcome, everybody, to Panfish Nation, along with Mark. I'm Lyle. Mark, glad to have you back. I know you had a big holiday or a big vacation trip, and we might touch on that for a minute or something, but we got an outstanding guest tonight. I watch his videos religiously. Even if he is a bass guy, I kind of like that. So, it's all good. Uh, but he's got some really cool content, and he walks up and down them creeks is something that I wish I could do, but just I don't want to.
Hey, Lyle, we are getting a little feedback. If you can mute that second YouTube window that you got open there, it'll cure that.
Second.
The one where you pin the message to the top.
How about now? Let's see.
So far, so good, bud.
Let's try that.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to be home. Happy to be back on Panfish Nation on Wednesday night. We're looking forward to talking to our buddy Trey today. I've spoken with Trey a few times on and off the screen. He's a good man. I think everybody's going to enjoy the show, Trey. So no pressure.
No.
Trey, we've had you on before a time or two,
yes,
and always had great shows. How long have you been in the YouTube business?
Right about 4 years now. So,
okay, I knew it'd been longer than I was aware of you, but I found another guy today that I contacted that is a new guy to YouTube, and man, he's really killing some great content, and his editing skills are top notch for somebody just beginning. So,
yeah.
I'm always happy to find somebody, but you'd been doing it probably a year or so before we found you, and I was shocked that you didn't have your 1,000 subscribers and watch hour time and all that when we first got to know you. And sometimes it just takes longer, but the content you got and your editing stuff is really, really good. And I just couldn't believe that you'd been doing it that long, but sometimes they just don't pick you up. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of things, the one thing that I'm really struggling with is being consistent. And I think that that's one thing that YouTube really looks for. It's that consistent upload. And it is really hard for me. I know that when I changed my position with my job here last August, I used to fish a little bit during the week, and now I have absolutely no time. My job has just really become just a real time absorber on a lot of things. So if I could just get to that consistency of just a couple videos a week, I think that would definitely help. I think YouTube's going to reward that. They're looking for content creators that are going to continually upload, and I really am dropping the ball on trying to be consistent. So
I understand.
Hey, YouTube's like a second job, isn't it, Trey? For the most part,
it is, and and with me too, I feel like I put a little more pressure on myself. The more I keep doing it, I feel like I owe the people that share their time with me to give them the best content that I can. And sometimes you go out, and sometimes it's tough to make fishing entertaining. So sometimes I just get content, and it takes me sitting at home sometimes just for a couple hours, just trying to figure out like, what can I do? How can I edit something to kind of make it as entertaining as possible? But therefore, like I said, the editing, I feel like I'm putting more pressure on myself to try to do better edits, and it just gets to the point where I can't even knock out even a short 6 to 8 minute video sometimes in 6 to 8 hours by the time I'm going through doing audio, video, just everything. So
and once you get into some of the other aspects of it, it's like I know when I've done the few videos that I have, it would take me a whole weekend just to get something done, including the title and the thumbnail and all of that stuff. It gets pretty involved, and I don't know if you get into that cold color coding game and all the other stuff that I don't.
Yeah. A lot of the color, where I don't, with the GoPros, a lot of my settings, I have those on. It generally is pretty good. So I've gotten to the point to where I can tell, like when I'm setting up my cameras and stuff with the right lighting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you where I spend a lot of time is my audio. I'm such a fanatic on stuff. I can't stand any clicks or pops or me sniffing my nose, anything. So I will go through literally just every audio clip in there, and I'm just literally cleaning up every little ping and pop, everything I can possibly. So I spend a lot of time on that.
Very nice. Hey, Mark, we had just almost forgot. What do you say we go through people in chat and welcome them all in here?
I was just going to say that we got 2 stands fishing in the house, 205 wild action. What's going on? There's Miss Annette's catfishing. How you doing, Miss Annette? Good to see you. Benoit Fishing Outdoors. They were great guests on Monday night. Watched all of that. Brian B. Catfishing in the house. Member, Crappie Day Fish on. Dan Thompson's also a member. He's in the house. There's Chadwick from Fields to Water. There's my buddy Dawson over at Fishing with Squirrel. Greg Burgess in the house. There's James Dockery Fishing. How you doing, James? Thanks for covering for me last week. Channel member Joe Buck 66. LG Bass in the house. Mike Irvin. Nice to see you, Mike, in the house. There's Jerry Parker Pursuits. There's Shamander of the Cedars. All right. How you doing? Welcome to the show. Tyler Stout in the house, and Uptown Chrissy Brown. What is going on? How you guys doing?
So, Trey, you've been working really diligently on your shorts.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason behind that? Do you think that it makes that much difference?
Unfortunately, it does. YouTube, when I won't say, I don't know if it's just a transition between TikTok and Instagram and shorts. It really seems like it's conditioning a lot of people for that short entertainment burst. And I just really have seen a massive fall off on the long format. I know still people do. I'm a long format person. I mean, when I'm working during the day, I can sit here and listen to a podcast for 3 hours and don't think nothing of it. But I have noticed over the last year or so easily that it just even is getting tougher and tougher as far as, whereas maybe you had a 15-minute video. It's like, I feel like now I struggle even putting something out that's 6 to 8 minutes and having that retention for you're just getting a couple minutes out of it. So I think really the market is gravitating towards the shorts. And I've just noticed even on the subscriptions, you pick up more on the shorts than you do on the long format. And I don't know, once again, now, I'm not firing on all cylinders. It could change if I could start being consistent on my uploads, maybe the long format. But I know I've talked to a lot of other people and they're kind of saying the same thing, that they're really having to kind of draw back on the length of their videos just to try to keep that retention there. So,
do you think that's because people's attention span is so short?
100%. And I think that's what TikTok is cultivating. You know, it's just like people are just for that quick. All they're just doing is thumbing through, and they're just looking for that quick fix. And I can get it. You know, like I said, you think if I always try in my videos to at least a little intro. You know, a little 8 to 15 seconds, something kind of funny. You know, and I'm sure if you could just have nothing but that, that's going to be a lot more entertaining than just sitting there watching me holding a fishing pole. So
right.
I can kind of see where people are gravitating towards. It's just the attention span is short, and they're looking to be entertained a lot more. So
yeah, well, I'm not a TikTok fan at all.
I don't get on it at all. Yeah,
I just don't like it. I check it once in a while. I put up one video. Mm-hmm. And my God, people flogged all over joining up or whatever it is they do.
Yeah.
Because I really hadn't done any of that except to Mark. He was the only person that I really knew that done it at that time.
Yeah.
And but I go back every once in a while and look into it. But I just can't get interested in that. Now the shorts, on the other hand, as of recently, and you may find this extremely weird, but I used to be a big horse owner, and we had horses and show horses, race colts, and I used to shoe my own horses and all. Hell, it cost so much I had to learn how to do it, you know. But anyhow, I've been watching horseshoeing videos, shorts, where they take donkeys that's got real long. I find that extremely interesting. Now, nobody else in the world probably thinks that it is, but to me,
yeah,
I find it very interesting.
Oh yeah,
and of course, I see your shorts once in a while, and I seen one the other day that I really, really liked. But if something catches my eye, you're only there for, what is it, a minute?
If that. I
And
mean, even
I
the
found a
shorts,
video
even the secret to the shorts. I mean, literally, you don't even want it. 30 seconds is too long when it comes to shorts. I mean, you want
really.
15 to 20 seconds
Oh
on those
wow.
shorts. And that's for me. One thing is like I will put the content out there just to try to get the viewership, really to drive it towards the long format, because really the long format is more what I enjoy. I don't the shorts is just there's a very little creativity in it to me. And a lot of times those, like I said, I never go out with any type of set script when I'm out videoing. It's just if I run across something weird or see something, I just get lucky.
You did.
Big pair of bloomers on the creek, it's like, okay, I can talk about this, but that's not going to happen all the time. So
No, but that was hilarious. It really was. You did a bang up job on it.
The chat's being brutal tonight, Lyle. I'm trying to keep up with it.
I have a emoji for him.
Then let's talk about that
Hey,
the
Matt.
short tray that you found Chad's bloomers in. What's that?
Oh yeah. Chad, I guess he had been out skinny dipping in my neck of the woods. So left him there for me to pick him up.
That's a good one. If we put Trey's link at the top of the chat box, I believe it's in the description too. So make sure you go there and subscribe to him and check out a lot of the shorts and his more important, the long-term videos that he has. I just verified. Yeah, the link's down in the description too. And you won't be disappointed. I mean, Trey really does a good job with his content. It's entertaining. I don't see why he doesn't get more traction than he does. So we need to help him out. Hopefully he'll get there. So
yeah, every subscription and view that he gets is just like the ones that's important for everyone that does this kind of content. So check him out. I promise you'll be happy you did.
I appreciate that.
Did I see Missy Kennedy is in here?
I did not, but I did see Cindy come in. I see Sampy came back. Oh, there's Missy. Matt showed up. How you doing, Missy? There's two stands fishing. What's going on? If we missed it, oh, there was Sean T. He was giving me some grief in chat.
Really?
What's going on, Sean T? Yeah, he was.
There was
Dockery's in there. What's going on, James? How you doing?
I'm not going to elaborate on it, but keep Missy and her family in your thoughts and prayers. If you would, she has some issues going on, along with Ernie Brown, who I hope is doing better, and Chrissy for tolerating him.
Agreed.
He did send me a message the other day and said everything went pretty good. So, but the things he's going through are extremely painful. So, oh, God, Josh. Oh man. What are we going to do with these guys?
I don't know. They timed me out on Monday, so I had to get each one of them at least once today.
Oh, man. Trey, how many different bodies of water do you normally fish in Tennessee, correct?
Yes. About a minimum, at least 10. This year, I've been trying to explore some new areas sometimes. This year, I put on 2 new creeks, so I definitely like to keep a good rotation. I'm one that I don't want to just go back to one body of water and just keep wearing it out over and over. I really like to rotate through my creeks and try to reduce the fishing pressure that I can. So at least about right now, I'm fishing about 10, but I need to really put on some new creeks. I've really seen a massive deterioration in our creeks over the last 3 years, and it's very noticeable. Even enough that I've been talking to our DNR reps about it, and I'm really trying to kind of pinpoint what the main item, if it's a culmination of things, or just. But I have a sneaking suspicion in Tennessee. We're supposed to be transitioning off of all coal-fired plants by 2030. And so what TVA is doing now is they're having to up their hydroelectric production to see if they're going to be able to keep up the electric consumption or capacity, in Tennessee. And so therefore what's happening is I've noticed that they're having to generate a lot more electricity, and they're dumping out those lakes a lot more. And I think what's happening is that it's keeping those lakes at lower levels, and then therefore there's less back pressure on our creeks, and our creeks are flowing out so much faster. So the last 2 years, I've been trying what I'm calling Winter Quest, where I've been fishing creeks year round and really focusing from November to March to see, like, can I really locate those smallmouths and those kind of shallow creeks, areas that I can walk through. And just to give you an idea, some of those creeks that I was fishing, same creeks from last year, I was having anywhere between 380 to 410 cubic feet of water per second that's running through some of those creeks. And some of those creeks this season have not crested over 40. So it's 10 times less water amount that's in those creeks. And we're getting rain every now and then, but it dumps out so fast. It doesn't hold, the water doesn't stay in those creeks anymore. And it's really changing the dynamic of those creeks, where I had wintering holes last year that might be 6 and 7 feet. Now those same spots are only 3 feet, and it's not even holding fish anymore. So, so I really haven't been put in the time and effort to try to find some new creeks this summer, just to, like I said, just really kind of test it and see if that really is holding water. But it really does seem to be the case, because I've fished some of these creeks 8, 9, 10 years, and there are some spots where I've had pockets, 12 and 14 pockets, where I can walk through those creeks and know that I'm consistently going to catch 1 to 2 fish in every one of those pockets. And to go through this season, there's some sections I've gone through 3 times and tested it, got skunked twice in those same 12 to 14 pockets, and went back once and got 9 only out of 3 pockets. And where I could used to see those fish, I could sight fish and see them. I'm not seeing anything in those creeks now. So there's definitely a dynamic changes going on right now, and I just can't really put my finger on what the total problem is here. But I'm hoping.
How much of it do you think's harvest,
sir?
How much of it do you believe to be harvest?
I'll tell you this. So last year, Tennessee did a study in Tennessee, and actually they had tagged 500 smallies in our creeks. And I actually was lucky enough to catch 2 of those tagged fish and received $100 for each of those fish. So
nice.
With that, I started talking to the DNR rep that was doing the study on that. And he's saying that, and that's really what that study was, is to see what the harvest rate was in Tennessee. And he's saying that there are a couple streams here in Tennessee that we do have a higher rate of harvest than others. But he said, but it really was a very small number. But I think, once again, there's another part that goes into aspect. Social media, I think, to a degree, is kind of somewhat having a negative effect on the creek fishing, because it's fun, it's enjoyable, people see it, but it also drives more and more people into those creeks. So you get to that tipping point to where what the fish can spawn and keep up with. And then once that fishing popular people that are just, there's creeks that, once again, that I've been fishing for years. And since after COVID, it got to the point to where some of those creeks, there were 7, 8 spots that were always pull offs that I never had problems ever getting in those spots. And now I'd go there and there'd be 2, 3, 4 cars in some of these areas. So you're talking about fishing pressure from beginning of April all the way till late October. I mean, some of these creeks are getting fish 7 days a week, kayaks, and then you've got a normal fish kill that's just called delayed mortality rate, where you don't even have to gut hook a smallie. They fight so hard that when that water temperature gets up and those oxygen saturation levels are low, that you can have up to 50% of those fish die just from the stress of the fight. So, that was one thing. I'm a big ultralight fisherman, but once I started talking to that DNR rep about it, I actually started changing up my habits. I went to 10-pound braid so that I could actually start landing those fish a lot faster. It's always fun to sit there and let them fight, but once he kind of brought my attention to that, and I wasn't even aware of it. So I think that in itself, you do have some that are harvesting 100%. I know I ran into a guy this summer and was talking to him, and sometimes the ignorance of some of these people, it just baffles me. Like this guy was saying, like he had 2 pockets in this creek that he fished, and he's like, it was great fish, and I could always pull 4 and 5 pounders out of there. And he goes, and now it's just I can't get any more. And I said, well, are you harvesting? He goes, yeah. He goes, but we only keep 7 to 10 at a time. And I'm like, you can't keep 7 to 10 out of one pocket in a creek and think that it's a parade of new smallies that's coming in taking their place. It's not.
Yeah, because where they come from.
Yeah.
I mean, he thinks there are new ones coming in. Where does he think they're coming, especially now in low water conditions?
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just like scratching my head. I'm like, well, no wonder there's no fish there. I'm like, if I go out and do that, 5 or 6 times harvesting one section of a creek, I can change the dynamic of that creek myself. So,
Absolutely.
So I think, like I said, you do have part of that. I think one, just the fishing pressure, overfishing, and then once again probably the water levels. I'm curious to see. I'm really hoping that our water levels get up this winter before that spring transition happens, before those smallish try to start pushing back in the creek, because I'm curious to see if the level of fish pick back up in some of those streams. If it doesn't, I really kind of have a feeling that my fears kind of is going to play out right, that it's just that the water levels are just staying low, and it's like I said, it's just going to, like I said, the damage too that you can do in some of those creeks. I mean, it only takes 3 years sometimes for creeks just to fall off a cliff, and then it could take nearly a decade for that stream to actually recover. Like I said, because some of these fish, like I said, even a smallie, what is it, 12 inches? It's close to 5 years it takes them just to get to that level. They're slow growers.
Yeah.
So,
especially when the water gets cold in the wintertime, and it's not like down south. The further south you go, the longer the growing season for fish is.
Correct.
So the further north you go, the slower the growth rate is.
Yes.
There's one other question about that I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
In the spring, when we call it flooding. I don't know what you guys call it down there. I don't know if you actually get the kind of flooding that I'm talking about, but I think, this is just my opinion, I have no way of substantiating it, but we can have spots there where I catch fish and then all of a sudden somebody harvests them, or they're gone, or for whatever reason, they're not there anymore, and the water's low. Once the flooding starts, it seems like the fish move around and replenish those places again. Now, I'm talking about river stuff, not creek.
But no, I've seen the exact same thing in creeks. A lot of times that will re-spark that bite. Sometimes you'll have those stagnant times where the waters are kind of low. And then I've seen the exact same thing where you'll have that flood stage hit. We do get that here in Tennessee. Like some of our creeks might be 20 feet out of the bank. Yeah. And I think the fish kind of go in survival mode at first. But then when that water clarity comes back and it gets to where the fish can move to some degree with safety, I have seen them where they'll stage. And I noticed that last winter, that was one thing. Around February, I started noticing concentrations of fish. Like, so last winter, my best day I went out about 3 hours, cold water temperature. I think it was 27 that day. But I ended up catching 27 smallies that day. I think it was 3 18s. But what I had noticed is we had a good rain right before that. Kind of the same thing. That water had started to recede just a little bit, but the current was still there and it was up. And I think those fish were taking advantage of that to go ahead and start pushing into creeks and staging up in certain areas. And I was catching concentrations of them pushing in and holding up. So I think you're absolutely right on that. They will use those elevated water times of elevated water to go ahead and push further into those creeks, especially for spawn.
I know. I got one more question. I'm going to let Mark have. So I know I can just see him sitting there fidgeting in his chair because
I'm keeping up with chat, trying to keep track of the questions people are asking.
Most all of your videos are about smallmouth bass.
Yeah.
Is that your main thing that you target when you go fishing?
It has been the last 2 years. I kind of got obsessed with the creek fishing. It's like, and I think it was more me wanting to learn something, and I kind of stuck my claws in it, and I was like, I really wanted to learn and fish it year round to really kind of put kind of the puzzle pieces together. I do enjoy the creek fishing. That's just really, to me, I enjoy it. I do have a boat and I have a kayak. I do find that it's the time that it takes me to get the stuff together, as far as like, I don't have anywhere to store my boat. So I have to pull my motor off, all my graphs, my batteries, all that. So it's a 45-minute prep to get my boat together and a 45-minute prep to unstage it when I get home. and it's just so much easier to throw my backpack and my fishing rod and hit the creek. And I do enjoy it. I definitely want to go. I like all different types of fish. Like I said, if it's panfishing, catfishing. I mean, there several years ago, I got really hardcore into catfishing. So I kind of take spells, but I will say here, really, the last 2 years, I've been really hardcore dedicated just to smallmouth creek fishing. So
right, yeah, it seems to me like I remember seeing some bluegill fishing or crappie fish, something you done.
Yeah, I do crappie, I do bluegill, catfish, sauger, walleye. I mean, I've done a lot. Like I said, it's just been
the smallmouth bass is,
and you can probably. With YouTube, you're constantly wanting to be consistent. And once again, it just gets to that point to where I can always be consistent when I'm going into a creek. I know how to read creeks. I know how to fish them. I can pretty much catch fish in them year round. Lakes, I don't have that knowledge. So, I mean, I can go out with the graphs and all that stuff, and there's days I can go out and get some, but I'm always far better in a creek than I am lake fishing.
Well, it's working for you, so. But
yeah, creek's a small area. It's a little easier to cover all of that area than it is like a whole river or a lake or something like that.
Or section of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which goes back to, how harvesting those fish affects such a small area. And it definitely does. So
yeah. I wish Tennessee, like I said, I've been pushing DNR after that study to try to reduce the limit of the harvest in the creek, just because the mortality rate of those creek smallies is so much greater than those in the lakes. But they keep saying that it would really have very limited effect on them, which I don't agree with it, but they have the science, so maybe they're correct. So
we had some questions. I know somebody asked if you ever fish for salmon.
I have. I have. A couple of years ago, I had a buddy. He's in Arizona now, but he was up in Portland area for a while, and I went out there with him, and we went salmon fishing out there. Chinook. We actually went Chinook fishing.
Very cool. How'd you like that?
It was slower than I expected. I went for I'm trying to think if it was. I think the spring Chinook are in a lot less concentration than the fall Chinook. And at the time we went was the lower concentration. Luckily, I was able to catch one, but it was fun. But I didn't realize too that you're fighting the sea lions, and it was that part. I know that our guide tells us, like, if you hook one, it's like you better get it in fast because the sea lions will come right up and pluck it right off your line. So,
wow, that sounds exciting. We got another question. How much did that smallmouth in the thumbnail weigh, Trey?
I never actually put him on a set of scales, but it was pushing 18 inches. I would only say he was probably 2 3/4 pounds, probably. Most of your creeks, it's gonna be hard pressed to get something over 4 pounds in a creek. I know I've heard a lot of people say, like, oh, I catch 5 pound. I'm like, you're talking. I mean, you're pushing a 20-inch smallmouth in the creeks. I mean, that's even hard pressed to start pushing, over 3 pounds.
Yeah, 20-inch smallmouth is usually that's a big smallmouth, unless you're like on the Great Lakes or something.
Yeah, in a creek, that's a big fish, but they just don't have the girth that you're going to find in some of our reservoirs. So,
is that because there's just not the stuff for them to eat?
I think it's that, and I think, like, once again, it's just they have a harder lifestyle. They're fighting current, and like I said, possibly I can't speak 100% on it, but I'm going to just say a lot of it's just going to be just the level. What they're having to fight in those creeks is a lot more. They're exerting a lot more energy, I would say, in creeks. So you're going to have those times, once again, elevated water that they're having to stage up and get in rocks and stuff to avoid that current. But I don't know if it would be, because there's plenty of bait in there. I mean, there's streams that I fish that are just absolutely loaded with bait. So I don't think that it's a shortage of food. I just think it's the amount of energy they exert in those creeks that some of your lake fish are not.
I've often wondered how much we measure stuff that humans eat in calories and how much you intake and how much you output.
Yeah.
If you done that on a fish every time one was hooked, they got to expend a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of energy.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's, other than running out in the current and grabbing them to snack and coming back and laying underneath the tree, they don't work that hard as a general rule.
Correct.
But when they get hooked, they're battling for their life, or they think they are.
Oh yeah.
So, they're fighting with everything they got. They got to go through probably as much in 5 minutes or less than they would in a week. Otherwise, I would have to think.
Yeah, and it's like I said, I'm just curious. Like during the summer months, you just think that some of these creeks are just getting fished 7 days a week. How many anglers go through there? I mean, there's days that I go through there and catch 30 fish by myself, and run into 6, 7 other anglers that have caught fish. So those fish have to be getting caught multiple times. I know even myself, there's fish that I know the creeks well enough and know certain pockets, and I'll see where they'll set in those same pockets where I've even come back and caught them a couple weeks later, that same exact fish. I know I had one bass that I was watching this summer. It's got the blotchy bass syndrome, and it was literally straight down its center. Its back half was fully black, and then the front was green. But I watched him for 6 weeks. I could never get him to commit, but he was in the same pocket for 6 weeks. So
very interesting.
Yeah.
We got another question for you. Have you ever, or do you ever fish Mountain Hill? It says they got some great smallmouth in there.
I have not.
And Jerry Parker says, has Trey noticed a decline in Google Eye populations in your creeks? Major drops in the numbers where he's at.
I'm not real. Like I said, I'm sure there is. Like I said, it's I think there is. I mean, like I said, I feel like some of the creeks that I've been watching the last couple of years, that for whatever reason, like I said, the last 3 years is when I've really been seeing a dip in a population, a lot of stuff, whether it's the bait fish or smallmouth, even just the panfish and those. So.
And Jerry says that they wish they would move his bass season opener into June. Too many fish on beds during opener. Do you guys have a season where you're at, Trey?
We do not, and I wish we did. That's another thing that's really affecting right now. The same thing I was telling you about with the hydroelectric. I've noticed that this over the last 2 or 3 years is when they've been doing these tests. And so if they need the electric, they need the power, they're going to do the generation no matter what. And it seems like last couple of years, right during our time when they're spawning, they're dropping these water levels significantly. And I mean, they're generating so much electricity that it could be some nights I could come out the next day, and that water would have already pulled off 3 feet down the bank. And then the next day it'd be another 3 feet. And I talked to some anglers, and they would say, like, the bass were up here trying to stage to spawn, and all of a sudden they dropped the water level and the fish pulled right off the banks. And I'm talking to some people, and they were saying they were catching female bass up in June that were still loaded with eggs. They still couldn't drop their eggs because it's just the water levels just kept fluctuating so much. I think they're really going to do a severe damage to our lakes through all this mess trying to get rid of our coal-fired plants.
Oh, I think that's a huge mistake.
Yeah, Danny Stone's correcting me. It's goggle eye, not Google eye.
Yes, I know what he
meant. Sorry, Danny. Sorry, guys. So what else? Let's talk a little bit about making content again.
Yeah.
So Lyle mentioned you've been doing it or you guys have been talking for 4 years.
Yeah.
And you're moving on to shorts and stuff. What kind of what's your process when you head out to fish, knowing that you're trying to get a video?
Really, like I said, I'm not somebody that goes out and scripts my content. A lot of times I'd go out, and whatever the day's circumstance is, it just is what I will come home and base my content off of. That's where it sometimes takes me so long to edit a video because, once again, it's not always entertaining. You might go out, I'm try to always find one little thing that, might, like I ran across a friend here a couple of weeks ago, and he was searching for arrowheads, and I come up on him just at the time he was actually excavating one out. So I'll make some content on that, and then try to figure out how I can kind of play that into my video. But once again, I don't script stuff. So it's like I don't go out with just a set like, okay, today I'm going to talk about this, and it may help. With YouTube, that's one thing I probably need to get a little more geared towards is content that's there, because people are using YouTube to learn, and that's one thing, unfortunately, that I don't do in my videos. My videos are not just constant tutorials. I mean, I do talk about some stuff, so it may help to try to go out and have some, I'm going to go out today and I'm going to talk about like why I Texas rig. Why does Texas rig work for me with winter creek fishing or whatever? I should probably try to do a little bit more of that, but honestly, I don't. And like I said, I think it's just kind of because I'm geared towards, I'm just trying to kind of make it as entertaining as I possibly can with a little bit of humor in it. So could be part of why the stuff's not taking off, because it's, like I said, it's just not feeling that need of a tutorial on what to do or whatever. But but yeah, I probably would help me to probably do a little more scripting. But like I said, sometimes I just really base it on what can I go out and what happened in that day. Was there something exciting that happened that I saw or came across or whatever? So.
Makes sense. Scripting stuff out, not that I or anybody I know does that, but you think it would make it a lot easier, but the fish don't read a script. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They really don't.
And that's the thing, some days I go out and that's, it's fishing. Some days you're going out and I'm literally reading the creek and I'm trying to figure out what's going on, and I'm trying different presentations, and I'm focused on trying to catch fish. And sometimes I'm just not sitting there talking. Sometimes I'll just be on camera and I'm just like going through the motion, like, what are these fish wanting? It's like, so I'm doing it until I really figure out, like, okay, I figured out now what they're wanting. They're setting in current and they're wanting, this type of action or whatever. Then I'll talk a little more. But sometimes you might go out and it might be a couple hours that you're literally trying to figure out what they're looking for that day. And it's kind of hard for me. I get kind of tunnel vision because all I'm doing is really focusing on catching fish at that point. So.
Well, if you got no fish catches for your content,
you have no content. So, like I said,
for the most part,
you'll notice that video if you catch fish.
Yeah,
you'll notice that a lot of people that do YouTube, they're fishing the same spots over and over again. And the ones that I've spoken to that don't fish the same spots over and over again, they spend 10 hours a day out there on the water until they find something. Then they'll make the video. So
that's when I go out, I'm easily, this year I was mapping a lot of the creeks just because I'm trying to kind of keep up with different areas. And I found out some of these areas, I didn't realize I was walking as much. I'm walking some of these areas easily 6 to over 8 miles in some of these sections. So I'm covering a ton of ground. But yeah, for me to go out, I'm easily, if it's during the summer, I'm definitely fishing 7-8 hours easily. So
I was covering that much last week on vacation to the buffet and back though. In my everyday life, not so much. I think some people, except for maybe Jerry Parker, he might have you beat. He'll walk like 12 miles to catch himself some bait. So,
oh yeah,
Jerry,
but it's like I found too that a lot of times it takes that walking to get away from that fishing pressure. I'm definitely one that I want to get away from crowds. I don't want to be on top of people. So I'm willing to walk as far as I need to try to get in spots. So
I can understand that.
And it makes a difference. It makes a huge difference on the fishing. I mean, there's spots now that where I can go in and park that now the fishing pressure is picked up. And even years ago, I could go in those spots and always catch a few in those front spots. And now it's like, I don't even see anything in those areas anymore. It's just nothing.
On the creeks and stuff that you're fishing, what is the major source of structure that you're looking for?
During the summer, really in the summer, what I'm looking for are changes in the creek. I want choke points. I know some people that I'll fish with during the summer, they're always looking for those deep pockets in the summer. And I'm always telling them, it's like, sometimes these fish, the feeding fish are going to current. And and it could be 18 inches wide. I'll see somebody like, don't walk through that spot. And they're like, what? I was like, that's where the fish are setting. You're walking right through where they're setting, and they're seeing the deep pocket behind it. I'm like, that's not, they're in that current. So I really look for choke points. I want turns, bends. One thing I'm not going to fish are just long straights. If I get in those long straights, there's with no structure, just the bottoms are real flat, bedrock or creek gravel, you're just not going to find those because you got to have some type of structure that's going to hold those fish. And once again, summertime, those oxygen levels are low, so they're going to stay near that moving current. And two, that's where your bait fish are. They're going to go feed in that current. So,
yeah, I agree.
We got another question. Chad says, "Okay, you're wading in creeks in Tennessee. They want to hear about your closest call with a cottonmouth."
That was this season. It was luckily. Let me see when it was. It was getting into fall. Largest cottonmouth I have ever come across in the creek. It was hard to tell by the video, but honestly, the girth of the cottonmouth was about the size of a soda can. And I had, and luckily that day it was about 60 degrees. It was starting to get pretty cool. So he really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting him to be out. And I had just come up out of the water and was walking in through some brush, and he was sitting right up on a rock trying to bask. And luckily he was cool. So he was showing me his fangs and, like he just wanted me to get away from him. But had he been warm, he probably would have striked at me, or might even kind of come at me. But I think the cold temperatures kind of kept him at bay. But that was the largest cottonmouth I have seen year to date. So it was a big boy.
I don't do snakes real well. Even large night crawlers bother me.
I didn't. I was going to say this. I think I only really came across probably 3 cottonmouths. There's a couple creeks that I go to that have a lot higher concentration. And when I'm really getting back in the woods, some of those areas where people kind of off the beaten path, that's more where I'm finding them. And this one was one of those days. I was about, it was a tad over 4 miles from the truck. So had he bit me, I probably would have been in some pretty serious trouble. I'd be hard to have gotten out of that creek. Now, like I said, I don't know if they would kill you, but he put a pretty serious hurting on me as big as he was.
Scared me to death, so that's close enough.
Yeah.
Do you get a cell signal when you're out that far?
I don't even really take my phone with me a lot of times. I don't like
miles around. That's not very smart, Trey.
Well, you know what it makes me do though? It makes me have a lot higher level of
awareness,
observation around myself. So when I'm out there by myself, I pay attention to stuff. I'm watching every step that I take. I know it's kind of almost like I'm telling myself, like, you gotta be safe, because at this point you're going to get in trouble. Even if I had my cell phone and got bit out there, I might, leave them a trail to find me, like, on the ground, but they're not going to probably be able to get to me in time. So, but it definitely makes me, be a lot safer when I'm out, because there's even spots. I will say, even this summer, there was a new area that I was checking out, and it was in a gorge. And I was going through a series of just small, probably 6 to 8 foot waterfalls that I was having to navigate down. This creek was extremely slick, but I had timed it, and it took me, I only walked in probably about 2 miles. But when I come out, I measured it. It took me nearly an hour and a half just to come out of that section. But it made me a tad uncomfortable, because I'm just like, man, I'm really back here. If I do fall or get hurt, like I said, even where I was, even if I'd have my cell phone back there, there's no cell phone service. So I have thought about getting one of those that the kayakers use.
It's like or whatever.
It's like a sat phone. All it does is send out really an emergency signal.
SOS, yeah.
So I have thought about getting one of those.
Well, the new phones nowadays have that built in too. So even if you're out of range, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of the iPhones, I don't know about the Androids, but the iPhones do in the last few ones. So if you're on an iPhone, it'll send an SOS out with your GPS locations. And
okay.
What is an iPhone?
It's the best, Lyle. You got two Apple guys here on screen. Be careful. Watch your steps.
Damn. That's hard to believe. I didn't know there's two left in the whole US of A.
Where's Josh's comment here? Hold on a second. I skipped that one because I was being nice to you.
Yeah.
Here we go. Interesting fact. The hit song by oh no, that's not it. Wait, hold on, we're coming to it. Lyle facts. Lyle was once bitten by a cottonmouth. After 3 days of excruciating pain, the snake died.
What can I say? If he gets too close to me, I'll use a rod and reel and beat him to death.
Yeah.
Frank from Twisted Fishing TV just showed up. He says in 1985, and you're 4 miles back and you break a leg.
Yeah.
I think
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You're in trouble. That's the
There's
thing.
been spots where I've wondered, like, I was uncomfortable enough in there. Like, man, if I fall, this is going to be a long crawl out of here. So.
And when you're crawling in and out of those creeks with slippery rocks that are overgrown and stuff, you got definitely nothing bad ever happens until it does is the motto that we kind of live by in this house. So
that's very true. Very true.
And Jerry's saying something real mean to you, Lyle. He says you have an Obama phone.
I never have had an Obama anything. I promise you that. I might make fun of his husband, though.
So when can we expect the next video from you?
I've got content right now. I've got to get caught up. Like I said, the last week's my truck caught on fire last week. I was driving down the road and
killer.
We I guess we had about 8 days of a pretty hard freeze here, and a mouse. I'm assuming a mouse or a squirrel or something had built a nest around my heater core. And I was on the road and turned my heat on for a second, and I started smelling burning leaves. And I was like, "Oh, please say this isn't going to cause a fire." Shut it off. And I sat there for a second, and I started seeing some little whiffs of smoke coming out. And so I turned around. I knew I was kind of driving back towards the house, and luckily the fire department was in the same direction. But I had to ditch her, and she went full blaze. So I'm going to have to find me another truck. So after that, I took in a lot of smoke inhalation that day, because I went about 3 miles, and I actually it was already flames pouring out from under the dash and everything. So, but I had a full tank of gas. So that's why I was trying to get as close to the fire department as possible. But I got a really, really bad cold. I don't know if it was just from all that smoke inhalation. So I've still been coughing. Today is finally getting a little better, but I've got to get caught back on. I know this weekend I've got a shooting event I'm going to be doing with my dad. We're going to go do a skeet shooting competition. So I'm going to do a video about that just with him. And then I'll probably by next week, I'll get back onto my existing footage that I've got to get edited.
Being in the automotive industry, my entire working career, pretty much, mice, rats for farmers, squirrels for people that live in town are the things that cause more damage than most anything else other than just wear and tear.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sick because my truck had 360,000 miles on it. I mean, it had been, we had a hard freeze here for 8 days. I got out. It just fired right up that day. She would have went to over 500,000. I think that truck was so reliable. So for it to have to go out that way, it was really a gut punch. I'm like, man, I hate losing my old truck. It just got me around everywhere, and I didn't have to worry about parking places. And now I've got another truck. It's not that I don't have a vehicle, but I just where some of these areas that I park are rough, and I don't feel comfortable parking my truck, like I said, because I've been broke in already this year and a couple other things. So
I hate places like that. That's usually where the fish are at. You know, is in the rough parking spots.
Oh yeah.
And is that the same truck that's been in your videos in the past?
Yeah. I've been driving that truck. My brother drove it all the way through high school and college, and then I've been driving it 14 years since he got out of college, and he got him a new vehicle and gave it to me, and I'm like, oh, I'll drive this thing till the wheels fall off. So
well,
I found one. I got one that looks just like it. I'm calling it the Red Falcon 2.0. I'm talking to the guy right now. He wants a good price for it, but I'm might buy it this weekend. Same color, but it's actually a 4-wheel drive. So
if it lasts as long as the other one does, you'll probably get your money.
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I told him. He's put a new engine in it, kind of low mile engine in it, repainted it, and done a lot to it. So, but he's wanting a pretty penny for it.
Two Cents Fishing has another Lyle fact for us, Lyle. He says, Lyle doesn't need bait to catch fish. They just jump right in the boat.
Asian carp do. That's for sure. There is no question about that. All you got to do is put in where they're at and take a ball bat to try to keep them out. But, hey, it's fresh bait. What can I say?
That's right. The Lyle also, Josh has got a Lyle fact for you. Lyle has a bearskin rug in front of his fireplace. The bear isn't dead. It's just too terrified to move.
Oh, my God. Where does he come up with this stuff?
I don't know, but they're being nice to you, Lyle.
That's different.
That makes me feel uneasy.
It probably should.
Matt says, thank the Lord you're okay, Trey.
That's right.
I appreciate you, man. Yeah. Right. I was, once again, as soon as I turned the heat on, within 2 seconds, I smelled burning leaves. I'm like, man, I already knew what had happened. I was like, damn it. So,
yeah. Well, at least you're aware enough to know that it's time to turn around and head somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thank the Lord. Like I said, I drove back. I got within 1 mile of the fire department. Honestly, by the time I ditched it on the side of the road, the fire department was already there within 3 minutes. So it had already, the whole entire cab was totally burnt, but it had not spread, like I said, because the gas tank was my concern. Because I was going down to one of my uncle's birthday parties, and I had a full tank of gas. I was like, man, I don't want this thing going exploding.
Yeah. No, that's the last thing you need, and then you got to worry about cleanup and everything else.
That's it. Yeah. So they were able to get it contained really fast. So
that's awesome.
You could do a walkthrough video on your channel when you get the new truck. Those do pretty good, actually. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know a buddy of mine said, like, you going to make a video for the Red Falcon that burning up? And I said, yeah, I probably can do something. I was like, I've got a couple pictures. I know my FedEx guy, he actually had delivered something, and we got to talking. I said, my truck burned up. And he goes, was that you? He goes, oh, we got pictures of it. He goes, he's like, I didn't even recognize. I didn't think about it. I was like, yeah, it was me. He goes, well, I was saying the person probably wasn't cold that day. And I was like, that just hurt right there. I was like,
yeah. So I have another question for you, Trey. I haven't seen your dogs in your videos recently.
A lot of it, they are so prey driven. I've been trying to find new creeks, and I've been worried about taking them out there. If they see a cottonmouth or copperhead, they're going after it. And so I've been just a little uneasy. Some of the areas I've been going, they're 10 now. They're getting a little older. They still get around great. But it's been more of just concern of the snakes has been more what I've been worried about. And like I said, in this season, I've just been hitting a lot of new areas. And until I feel really comfortable enough in some of those areas, I don't feel like taking them out there and putting them at risk. So,
well, I'm just curious because I know there for a long time they was in every video.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love taking them with me, and they love to go with me.
Yes, they do.
It's just if I can go back start some of the creeks, if I kind of start going back to some of the creeks I know well enough. I don't like taking them to areas where they have to swim a whole lot. There's some creeks that I go to that's got a lot of good gravel banks that we can walk down. So some of those I'll be more likely to take them to. So
to answer that question, we have not, but we're going to try to put it on the spring now since we didn't get it in the fall, and the qualifiers will still be eligible for that.
Absolutely. I was just going to answer that question. I look forward to being in that, and it should be a good time. We just got to come up with a date. Hopefully when the weather gets a little better, maybe after we get back from Mendota, Lyle, we can get that figured out.
Hey, to tell you the truth, since I'm not in it, we can go tomorrow. I could care. Yeah, it'd be the same people that qualified for it. And I don't have the list on me now, but I know Chad and Mark and Josh is in it, and
Dockery, of course.
And
Steve Mosley's in it.
Mosley had a hell of a
Freddie Beck's in it.
Freddie Beck.
Those are the ones I can remember offhand. So
seems like there's another one or two.
You have to forgive me. It's been a little while, but
yeah, it has been a while.
People got busy. We're going to get it scheduled in the spring here. So
it got busy and people had stuff to do, and then it got cold, and just one of them things. But we're probably going to try that again, and then when we do, we'll try to get it up to where it's not so late in this year to make the championship stuff go. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it.
Had a ton of fun. So what other species of fish are you catching in the creeks?
The last couple of years, I've been so good at targeting the smallies. That's all that I'm catching, other than the random rock bass here and there. So,
well, they're fun too.
Oh yeah. But it's like I feel like I'm targeting the smallies. So it's like that's all I've really focused on. It's like I really feel like I've weeded out anything other than just rock bass. So. Just now, like in our creeks, some of the I don't know, like there's some catfish in some of those creeks, but what's weird is I've never come across a single catfish. There's one new creek that I tried out last season in the middle of winter, and I actually was able to catch one crappie. It's the first crappie I'd ever caught in a creek.
Mm-hmm.
But I just generally don't catch too much other than just the smallmouth. I just think it's just.
You ever come across a largemouth,
sir?
You ever come across any largemouth?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. So largemouth, spots, and then smallmouth and rock bass is about pretty much what I'm catching in the creeks.
Largemouth are like Asian carp. They get everywhere.
Yeah. And I've definitely noticed some of our creeks that were really higher concentrations of smallmouth. A lot of them have been changing. The structure's been changing. A lot of river gravel has been filling in a lot of our deeper pockets. But at the same time, I've started noticing towards the tail end of the creeks, but not more the headwaters, but I'm starting to see a lot more largemouth push in the lower sections of the creeks.
You ever do any micro fishing, or you ever think about doing any micro fishing in those creeks?
I haven't. It'd be neat to try. I know we got a lot of stone rollers and bullhead chubs and stuff like that, but I'd definitely like to try it. It'd be interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, but every time I go bait fishing, I seem to catch all the smallest fish in the area. So that's another story. I don't mean to do that. I just know that some people are really into that whole species catching stuff, and I think creeks are usually the place to go after those kinds of fish. So.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely got a good. In Tennessee, what's crazy too, we have one of the higher number of fish populations in Tennessee. I want to say it's within our creeks and reservoirs, we've got nearly over 300 different species of fish here in Tennessee. Don't quote me, but I'm almost thinking it's closer to like 360. But of course, you're talking a ton of that. It's just going to be your small stuff.
Yeah, real small stuff.
We definitely have a massive diversity of fish here in Tennessee.
I'm going to read you something that James sent me through a messenger, and he says that a 1 mile stream in the Ozarks has 80,000 smallmouth in it right after spawn.
Wow.
By early September, only 100 are still there.
So that many push in, and then there's that few are there after.
Well, after spawn. See, them's ones that are produced.
A
lot of small fish, and I'm assuming that they're being used as bait fish for channel cat, bass, whatever. And he said that's why we need more studies done on habitat. And I agree. Habitat's everything to fry. They've got to have a place to hide to get away from those predator fish. And there's, as much as I love them, channel cat is one of the biggest predators for creek fishermen that there is. And they don't pick no favorites. They don't care which species it is.
Yeah.
They will eat them all.
I would be curious. I would like to know the number of fish that make it. I know that the DNR rep that I was talking to, he said, smallies, that first year, the mortality rate is extremely high.
Right.
And once they finally get to that 5-year mark, up to about 12 inches, that rate increases dramatically. But I'm just curious, like really what that number is, like a fry that hatch, like how many actually make it, to some level of adulthood.
I used to know on catfish, on blue cats, it was they had it in percentages of, and I used to know what it was, but right now it kind of eludes me. It's like if 800,000 eggs was laid, 1% of those actually made it to be a year old is what it ended up being,
Wow.
But now for each species, it's going to be different.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. That's interesting about Ozark. My brother actually is going active military right now, and he's going to be going over to Arkansas. So I'm going to be hopefully spending some time over in Ozarks with him, hopefully, once he gets over there. And
is he going to I'm trying to think of the name of that base down there in Harrison.
I know he's going to be. I'm trying to think where. I think he's going to be near Fort Smith. Is where he's going to be near.
Fort Smith.
Yep.
You won't be that far from me, really.
Okay.
I'm. If you go to Springfield, I'm 36 miles north of Springfield.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, he's supposed to be. I think he's supposed to report there in April. So I know sometime after then, I'm going to try.
That just tells me if you get that close, you need to come up and we'll go fishing.
I will definitely will. Be ready.
Yeah, we got Pomme de Terre, Stockton, Lake Ozark, Truman. I mean, we could always go to the Mississippi or the Missouri, but
awesome.
Why? If I got all them lakes right here, why would we?
Yeah,
we just fish in.
Yeah.
Benoit Fishing Outdoors says, hello, Jody. Congratulations on being a grandma. We can finally call her Mima Jody.
She sent me pictures of that little thing today. It's so cute.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. Very happy for her. Nothing like being a grandparent. There's just, you can spoil them, fill them full of chocolate and send them home,
Mm-hmm.
It's a great thing.
James Dockery says, on average, smallmouth will lay about 2,800 eggs up to 10,000 eggs. Half of those will die the first year.
Wow.
He is very much up to speed with our statistics here in the state of Missouri. I used to be, but it kind of gets away from you.
Yeah.
And although the Missouri Department of Conservation is really good about posting that stuff and making it available for you to find, I don't have time to spend looking for it anymore. It's not right there. You kind of got to dig for that. But if you'll contact them, anybody that's looking for this is a tip for you. If you are looking for information like that or anything else, if you'll contact Missouri Department, they will tell you where to find those studies and those things. They're really good about that.
That's awesome.
And again, that's part of the deal with them not being controlled by the state government. They are a separate entity.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important they stay that way.
The one thing too, that's what with Tennessee, I was talking to our DNR rep as far as trying to get regulations and stuff changed. And that's the one downside is that within Tennessee, only 10% of our state population carries a fishing license. And DNR is not state funded. They only make their money through fishing license. Therefore, there's nothing that you can do that they're going to say that 10% of the population is not going to go in there and dictate laws to try to change things. They're basically saying, like, you're going to have to go to state reps, because there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can say when we represent only 10% of the state's population.
Right.
But the thing is that any type of regulation change, a lot of it's going to come after some of the damage has already been done. That regulation change is to try to correct the damage that's already there versus them being able to preemptively go in and say, like, hey, before this becomes a problem, let's go ahead and tighten up on these regulations. Because at the same time, I always say, like, us as anglers, we have to self-regulate even ourselves. Like, even if the guidelines tell me I can do a certain thing, it's like, well, I can harvest 5 fish every time I go to a creek, but if my gut tells me, like, well, hey, I know that I'm going to do somewhat damage if I do that. If I'm an experienced enough angler and I can go out 3 or 4 times a week and pull out 15 fish out of a 1 mile stretch of that creek, just over and over and over and over, it's like at some point I'm going to be doing more damage there versus self-regulating myself to say, like, even though regulation allows me to do it, I'm not going to do it just, because I don't want this to get, to the point to where it's affecting the creeks.
That's exactly right. And it goes back to, and I think it was the lenders that come up with this term, selective harvest. And in my opinion, that is one of the most spot on, accurate depictions of what we need to practice that there is.
Yeah.
Selective harvest. Nobody ever should tell anybody not to harvest a fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be selective about what you take.
Yeah.
Some species, which I have learned, their growth rate is slow, is fast, they produce a lot, and they don't live very long. Those species, it's okay to take the bigger fish because they're going to die if you don't.
Yeah.
Other species like blue cats live 30, 40 years of age. They have a slow growth rate. It takes them a long time to get to be 30, 40, 50, 80, 100 pounds. Those need to be returned because even at 30 years of age, they're still producing eggs, and them eggs hatch, and they need to pass that gene on.
Oh, yeah.
Harvest the smaller ones, which are the better eating ones anyhow. But, regardless, you need to do your due diligence and find out about the target species that you're trying to get, and find out which ones are the ones that you should be harvesting and which ones are the ones that you should be taking.
Yeah.
And then practice selective harvest. That's one of the greatest terms in our industry, I believe.
Yeah, I agree.
We got another question from Chad. It says, has Trey used the new Amarashi release technique that MLF Takahiro Omori is using? It's supposed to reduce mortality rates on stress fish. I'm wondering if it will work on smallmouths too.
I'll have to look at it. I'm not familiar with it. I know that for me, everything with creek fishing, I'm always trying to reduce stress levels. I'm always trying to reduce any type of gut hooking. One thing that I definitely use a lot, I know a lot of people don't, I don't know, well, I can't say how many do, but I use a lot smaller fishing hooks. I go to really fine fishing hooks. I want quality fishing hooks that aren't going to bend, but I find that my hook sets, it's so much easier with that really small fine gauge hook. I mean, if you'll see my videos, you're not seeing me give it this, I'm not having to do this. I mean, it's just a wrist flick is really all that it takes because it's such a small gauge. I'm doing less damage on the hook or on their jaws. So I definitely do things like that. I know even like I fish with the Helgermite so much, and I noticed when I went to fishing those, I would Texas rig them at first, and I Texas rigged them up through the back. Well, I started noticing I had gone all summer and not gut hooked anything. And when I went to that setup for that next 2 weeks or so, I had gut hooked almost 3 or 4 fish. And I was like, what is going on? And I was talking to John with Creek Fishing Adventures, and I noticed that he side hooks his Helgermites in through the side to where they're not coming up through the back, but they're setting vertical with that the Helgermite. And when I went to that, I noticed it alleviated that gut hooking for whatever reason. And I know that my brother had come to fish with me one weekend, and he didn't like how I had it rigged, and he instantly changed it, went up through the back. Well, as soon as he did that, he sat there and gut hooked too. And I said, I had that for a reason. I said, I want you to try something. Go back to the way I had it. You're going to have a good hook set, I promise. And I want to see if that alleviates you gut hooking those fish for whatever reason. He did, and sure enough, he didn't gut hook anymore the rest of the day. So I don't know what it was with that hook up through the back of that Helgermite versus it setting sideways. But like I said, I do pay attention to stuff like that. If there's anything that I'm doing, if I can reduce any type of gut hook or stress, I'm going to always shoot for that. So
very good.
I kind of can go off the deep end when it kind of gets to the catch and release. So,
well, that's quality information right there that people can take to heart.
Yeah. And that for me, like I said, and I don't know, like I said, had my brother not come behind and changed it and then started gut hooking them, I don't know if I would have put nearly at the stop, but I know for myself, I keep up with how many I gut hook. And I'd say in a year's time, if I'm catching over 1,000 fish, I would say year to date, even this year, I probably gut hooked less than 5 smallies throughout the whole year.
Wow.
Good percentage.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
James Dockery says, I know some states will sample the same body of water year after year. You cannot get a good result from doing so.
That is correct. I agree 100%. Man, I hate to agree, James, but he's right about that. you got to, and I get so upset with the Department of Conservation here in our state because they do studies and they're usually 5 year or longer. And I want results now. I don't want to wait 5 years to get results. I want regulations put in effect tomorrow, not next week, not next year. I want them done now. That don't fly with them. And I've had several conversations with some of the big wigs in the state. And one thing that they always ask me, are you happy with the regulations that we put into effect and how they're working? And I usually say yes. I don't on all of them. But on the fishing stuff, I have to admit most of the time they do the right thing. So if you're happy, why are you bitching at us? We're doing it the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you that. But still, there's no reason for anyone to take more than 2 fish over 34 inches out of any body of water, commercial fishermen or not.
Yeah.
And if I can only keep 10 fish or 5 fish, that's all they should be allowed to keep.
Well, and that's one thing here in Tennessee. We've got, in my local area, we've got probably about 4 or 5 commercial fishermen that I know. And a lot of times, some of those people will just strategically go towards that fishing. All it is it's a difference in a license. It's a $600 commercial license that you're paying for.
Mm-hmm.
And then it opens up this option of I've got a larger season for paddlefish. There's so much more on the catfish I can keep. And some of those people just do it because it allows them to harvest more fish. It's just like, I'll just pay $600 more for the license and have larger seasons that I can fish for stuff that other people can't.
If I wanted to keep that many fish, I probably would agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't like to clean the damn thing, so I'm only going to keep what I'm going to eat. You know what I mean? And that's not that much, but it has become more with the economy we have right now. Thanks, Joe. But, I just don't – I have a cleaning station, a table that I do, and it works out perfect for me. I don't care that much about cleaning the damn things. But I will, because I like to eat fish, but never keep anything big. I always keep the small ones. And the thing is, the guy says, you don't know if that could have been a 50 or 100-pound fish. Well, it might have been, but we won't know now, will we?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I love my live well. I can always throw them back in the lake and want to get back to the dock, depending on how I feel. So.
I got to tell you, there is so many times, and it doesn't matter if it's, unless I'm keeping bluegill for bait, doesn't matter if it's bluegill or catfish or crappie or whatever it is. When I go out fishing, I'm liable to save them in a live well. When I get back to the boat ramp, I'm thinking, I ain't going home clean these fish. They go right back in the water. And other days, it doesn't matter if we get out early and get done, especially when it's hot, because my cleaning station is underneath a shade tree, and it ain't bad.
Yeah.
But, selective harvest. If people would practice selective harvest, my God, there's just so many advantages to that a lot of people just don't understand.
Yeah.
They see that big fish and they think they can get a lot of meat in the freezer. And,
a lot
and
of
then they do. And then 2 months later, they're throwing it out because it's got freezer burn, which is a shame.
A lot of them just haul them around, show them to all their friends, and then they just throw it away. And that's the worst.
Yeah.
Then while fishing outdoors, kept 1 channel cat this year and fried it up. Restrictive harvest is definitely something we like practicing. Thank you so much for that.
You think there's a balance? Like I said, I know there's a good balance. Like I said, you've got to keep some of those fish weeded out of there too, once again, so that you don't have over competition for those fish. So it's going to let others grow. But like some of the techniques, like I guess one thing, like in Tennessee, I really wish we had something around the spawn. Like that's one thing that I've always kind of scratched my head on as far as anglers. Once again, us going above and beyond on certain things to help the sport out. But to me, it's like if I'm fishing around spawn and I'm putting those fish in a live well and I'm dragging them around for 8 hours and I'm going and weighing them in and then I'm dumping them out, it's like, well, the beds, you've just ruined anything that you've just caught. And I don't know. I wish we kind of, I definitely like the kind of the kayak setup that they've got where they're doing the measurements there and just putting them right back. I kind of wish we almost went to something like that here in the state as far as for the bass fishing.
Well, I understand what you're saying about that. Personally, you get one fish that weighs 5 pounds and it might be 9 inches long. Yeah. Just as an example, I know it's going to be more 9 inches.
Yeah.
But just bear with me here. And the next 5 pound catfish you catch might be 15 inches long. In my mind, the only correct way to measure fish is by weight.
Okay.
Now, in a kayak, I understand. A lot of these guys don't have kayaks they can stand up in and hold a 50 or 75 pound fish up and weigh it. I got that.
Yeah.
They go to the bank
and
get on the bank and weigh the fish and release it.
Yeah.
Measurement is the worst way of measuring the size of a fish because, like I say, this fish might weigh 5 pounds. This is skinny and long. It might weigh 5 pounds.
Yeah.
It's not the same.
Yeah, I agree.
And the formula that you use, and people will argue this, we've done it a million times.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger the fish, the further off that formula becomes.
Okay.
So now on a 5 pound fish, it's probably within ounces. You get to a 100 pound fish, it's probably 30 pounds difference. Because one of them will be great big around the girth.
Oh, yeah.
The next one won't be. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I do understand the guys need to be able to stand up and do it. And they're not always close to a bank. I got that too.
Yeah.
But what they're doing is working for them. So who am I to judge?
Yeah.
But it's not. Yeah. It's just not an accurate way to measure the size of a fish. Weight's the only true measurement to measure big fish with.
Correct. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you're right, Stan. If everybody's going by that, but you really never know who the true winner was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. If you're going by size, that's one of the things about the online tournaments, and I don't know how much of this you have followed, Trey, but the online tournaments, a lot of them, they weigh the fish or it's numbers of fish caught.
Okay.
I think in my mind, if you want to preserve the fish, numbers of fish is the best way to go. You catch it, you release it. You catch another, you release it. You're counting how many fish per day you caught versus taking it out, weighing it, or measuring it, whichever the case may be. And if you catch one like that, let's face it, you want a picture of it.
Yeah.
So every minute that fish is out of the water, how much damage is it doing? Maybe none, but maybe some, depending on how long the fight was. There's a lot of variables.
I would say on the smallmouth side, I can see there being a lot. When I know that's one thing for me when I'm doing some tournaments and stuff, even if it's measurement, it's like I'm always peculiar. Once I've fought that fish in, I'm keeping my net with me and trying to let that fish revive for a minute or so versus I'm just pulling it right out of the bank, right then when that fish is starved for oxygen and I'm doing my measurement and I'm sitting here trying to get the mouth closed and all this stuff. It's just like, to me, that's
well, weird. That's one thing about a boat guy that has a good live well. Mm-hmm. We put our fish that we're going to return to water in the live well with aeration of some kind, whether it be straight oxygen or just a bubbler. It depends on the time of the year, how hot it is, how cold it is, and let them revive and rest up. Yeah. And normally when you release them, they're hot. They're ready to go. Yeah. I think that's a great thing to do, but I believe that the catch them, whatever you got to do, get them right back in that water because especially in the areas which you're fishing with creeks, you have mostly running water, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That water's oxygenated constantly.
Yeah.
It don't get any better than that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's why they're sitting. Like I said, that's where they're sitting in summer anytime. Like I said, they know where that oxygen concentration's at. So
that is one of the things about catfishing, and people to always say, "Why do you fish below the dam?" It's the most oxygenated place in the whole river, and it's the biggest piece of structure in the whole river. Yeah. Why would there not be fish there of all kinds?
And they can't make it past the dam, so it kind of stops them there.
Yeah.
Right?
Some of them actually do.
Putting odds in your favor right there.
Two Stan says, especially during the hotter summer months, it's so important to get the fish back in the water.
He's correct about that. I agree 100%, Stan.
And then Josh has got a comment for you, Lyle. I'll let you read that one.
I know some bluegill who would argue with you that they could. If I was given healthy fish. It's an inside joke, Trey. You James
Lyle's known as the executioner with some people.
That's not exactly true. I've kept them alive for months.
They call his live well the gallows.
Yeah. The only time I ever lost any is when it was given to me in those fish baskets that was full. And don't put them in a live well full of water with oxygen or not. It doesn't make any difference. There's just too many in the baskets. It don't matter. But we used them. They was all made for bait, and it worked out perfect.
Well, before we end tonight, I want to make sure I remind everybody who's still here in chat to hit that thumbs up before you leave. We'd appreciate it. Also,
Absolutely.
If you're not a member and you'd like to become one, you can always go to the main page of Panfish Nation. Lyle might have it down in the description, so check down there. Or I believe you can do it if you click on the $ below the chat window. I think there's a spot there too. Lyle will appreciate it, so I want to make sure we get that out there for you.
Yeah, I would like to tell Trey, thank you so much for coming in and doing another show with us. We for the viewers that haven't checked Trey's channel out, please click the link up above where Mark has posted it and locked it in for us. Go check his channel out. Watch a couple of his videos. He has got some shorts that are really good if you're not into the longer videos, but I cannot actually imagine you not liking them because they are done really well. The editing is great. The content is awesome. He catches a lot of fish, and it's entertaining. And
very entertaining.
What more could you ask for? And I think, Trey, this is the third show that you've done with this. I might be off a number.
I believe you're right. Yes, sir.
Digit or two. But you've become a real close friend of Mark and I, and we appreciate you coming on here very much. And we do extend people to come back anytime they want, but especially you're just such a great guest and a wealth of information, and it's always a great show when you come and join us.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for the opportunity. Definitely, and good to catch up with you guys too. So
it is, and it seems like the only time I visit with you is if I leave a comment on your videos or we ask you to come on the show. Maybe I need to just email you once in a while and say, "Hey, dude, how's it going?" But that happens. That's just life and the way it works. But you're always welcome here, and we're so happy to hear you, Mark. We got the bait shop coming up tomorrow night.
We do tomorrow at 7 p.m. God's time, also known as Central Time.
Yep.
On Chad's Field the Water channel.
Yeah, and Freddie and Brian will be in there with him. And I don't know. It seems like I seen a thumbnail that was really well done, but I don't remember what the topic was. And then we got Catfish Weekly coming up Monday night. Let me see.
There's a topic on the bait shop?
Well, probably not.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. Hang on just a second. We have a guest for Monday night. Jeremy Gregg and his lady friend Alyssa will be our guest. And I can't think of the name of their outdoor channel that they have. Multi-species fishermen. They catch a lot of fish, specifically catfish, but they catch a lot of other stuff, and they will be our guests Monday night. So that'll be a fun show, even if we do have Chad in there.
Outdoor Wicked Adventures next Monday, Lyle.
That's it.
And we remind everybody that Josh has his short tip Saturday on his channel, The Weekend Angler, even though he's always mean and nasty to us in this live chat. Want to remind everybody about checking out Josh's channel as well. And all the great other entertainment like Stan's show on Friday night too. We can't forget that. And Jody.
Absolutely. Show. And Sunday morning with them. And Jody has hers on Friday night also, where they go out catching fish. Jody's a new grandma.
I think it'll be the first Friday she fishes as a Meemaw.
Well, I wonder if it makes her feel old. It never bothered me, is why I say. It never bothered me. But then again, I got 7, I think.
She's mine. She's cooking. She's doing all sorts of stuff we've been teasing her about. My goodness.
And we all have a good time. But check out these other channels. They're working hard to give you quality entertainment just like we are. And if you like what we do, hit that thumbs up. If you really like what we do, subscribe to us. Go check out Trey's channel. Give him a subscribe. And if you really like it, you can join up and be a member. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday night at 7 Central.